having these two, at the time, giants, I had the book David and Goliath on my desk, and I would look at it every day knowing it was like, we are going to win this. I know we're going to win. So that was really a lot more scary than if we were all alone in the category.
What is up, food marketing people? Welcome to episode number 36. On the show today, we've got Kate Weiler, co-founder of DrinkMaple, and we are talking about being the champion of your own new category. Kate's maple water is now sold in over 12,000 stores, which has taken years of grit, passion, and, in her words, blissful ignorance to make happen. As you'll hear from Kate, there are a lot of pros and cons to creating a product that's really in the first of its kind in the category, especially as a startup bootstrapping it to the top. Kate's got hustle and is a wealth of information about entrepreneurship and marketing, and you're going to learn a lot from this episode. Today, you'll hear why grit outweighs experience as a CPG startup founder, what it takes to go from one store to over 12,000, how to tactically use a small budget when educating consumers is your biggest hurdle, and plenty more. Kate has some hilarious stories of early days and lessons learned the hard way, which I think you're really going to enjoy. So let's go on and get after it.
Welcome to the Food Marketing Nerds Podcast, where we talk marketing, branding, and social media with the smartest minds in the business. Here's your host, Alex Osterly.
So Kate, welcome to Food Marketing Nerds.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So can you tell our listeners just a little bit about your background, maple water, and how you really got started?
Absolutely. So in 2013, my now business partner and I, we were doing an Ironman triathlon in Mont Tremblant in Canada and stumbled on a very small manufacturer's maple water and really had no idea that what was coming straight from the tree was this natural hydration and knew maple syrup, obviously, but didn't know that maple sap was actually a water consistency and full of nutrients and can be consumed as a functional beverage. And we were both coconut water drinkers, but really were dumbfounded why, as a country, we were shipping coconuts from across the world for this natural single ingredient hydration, but we also weren't utilizing our local resource that was in our backyard with maple trees. So decided to look into it a little bit more, bought the product, loved it, and hydrated with it for the race, and realized there had been a research study done by University of Rhode Island on the nutritional components of maple water, and it was primed to be a functional hydration beverage. And then came back to the States, and it was a couple months later, and then just decided that really people would like it as much as we did, so we decided to throw ourselves into the industry and start DrinkMaple. And this was in 2014 that we launched in about 10 stores. And it's been a bit of a whirlwind to now. And 3 years later, we're in upwards of soon to be probably 12,000 stores.
Wow. And so before starting DrinkMaple, what were you doing in your career and what led you to actually wanting to start your own business?
So I wasn't looking to start my own business. I started my career out of college in information technology sales. So I was selling hardware and software for a very large technology company. And I was doing that for years and met a lot of great people, but really it was after my first Ironman, I decided that, I was so focused on this goal of my Ironman and it was over. And then I realized I was really faced with what I was doing every day in my job. And I realized I just wasn't passionate about hardware and software. And I didn't want to wake up at the age of 30, which was, to me, was old at the time, and be just upset and going through the motions with a career and be doing something that I just wasn't passionate about just because it was comfortable. And so I decided to quit my job. I went back to school. I did a lot of reading and I was doing a lot of yoga and trying to figure out what really I was going to do. And it was around the time that Michael Pollan's book, In Defense of Food, came out, and that was one that just really stuck with me. I started doing a lot of reading and realized there was just so much about our food system that was dictated by the government and by the different industries, and realized that I really had a strong passion for nutrition. And so I went back to school, got my master's in nutrition. I also got a holistic integrative degree as well. And then it was around the same time that I was really building out my sports nutrition practice. I was writing a book, and I have a published book called Real Fit Kitchen with Tara Mardigan, the former nutritionist of the Red Sox. And so I was in this world in nutrition, and was not looking to start a food company. So I was looking to build out my practice, looking to expand on this book, and I was so really thrown back by this maple water thing that it just really was tugging on me, that I felt like it was my calling to start this thing.
So not necessarily having a business background, what were some of the first hard learnings where you're like, oh, wow, should have known that when you first started your company?
It's a whirlwind. We started with just the two of us. So Jeff and I started, and we were doing everything. I think that you don't really realize the amount of work it takes. Like, we were ready to work really hard, and we had some competitors, and we were like, you know what, no one's going to outwork us. And we were both, knew what it took to work hard, but just a lot of the unknown. We didn't know anything about the beverage industry. Neither one of us had formal business background. But I honestly don't think that an MBA or having business background is necessary. I think that part of what has made us successful is that we didn't know what we didn't know. I do think it's important to have some sort of business sense, though. Being able to know your goals and where you're going and what you're trying to accomplish, how to figure out distribution and sales, and really understanding and having that yearning to learn the business side of things. Because if you just really want to make a great product, then it's going to be really difficult to have a successful food company.
I am sometimes of the belief that sometimes coming into a scenario and not knowing what you're doing is almost to your benefit, because you don't have a structured approach, and you're not jaded and, oh, that's not going to work. Did you find that to be true at all?
Absolutely. I think ignorance is bliss. I think we say if we really knew what we were getting ourselves into, then we probably wouldn't get into it. But I do. I think there comes a point where we got to the point in our business where we needed to find people that knew what they were doing, that we weren't reinventing the wheel, that had structure and had learned from being in the business, and surrounding yourself with those people are really, really beneficial. But I think that part of what has made us successful is that we just had this entrepreneur mentality. We didn't know anything about the industry. We didn't know what we didn't know. We weren't set in our ways. If something didn't work, we changed direction. If something worked, we just go with it. We had a really clean slate on how to approach things. And I think that there's a lot of value in hiring people and building a team around you with people that have had experience and know what they're doing. But from our standpoint, as entrepreneurs, without having that background has really served us well.
DrinkMaple and Maple Water was somewhat of a new company to me. And when I tried the water itself, it is actually amazing. But for people who aren't familiar with the company or the product itself, can you dive into how and where maple water comes from and how it's produced?
Absolutely. So it's really, we use maple sap and maple water interchangeably. It's really the sap from maple trees. We don't like to use the word sap because people think sticky, sweet, they think pine sap, they think maple syrup, and really we want to be able to share that this is a water consistency. It's light, it's refreshing, it's not high in sugar, it's half of the sugar of coconut water, it's very, very hydrating and very subtle. It's not overpowering like a lot of people think. So it's sourced from maple trees, so it's all from wild growth forests. The sap runs up and down the tree in the springtime, really to bring nutrients to the tree to awaken it from winter to spring. That's when we tap the maple tree and collect the water. It's the same infrastructure as maple syrup, so it's been around for hundreds of years. People have been drinking this for hundreds of years, but just what's new about it is being able to put it in a bottle format that will stay pure and not going to go bad. So no trees are harmed, so only 10% of the sap is taken from the tree. This is really sustainable. It's actually encouraging responsible forestry because the trees are being tapped, they're being worked, and so they're not going to be chopped down for real estate if people are using them. And it's really in everyone's best interest to tap a maple tree that's sustainable because you have to wait about 30 to 40 years before you can tap trees. So you can't just plant one and then the next year have it be available with sap. So there's a functional component. It's like I mentioned, it's been going on with the maple syrup infrastructure for a long time, but what's really new is this idea of collecting the maple water from the tree and then bottling it.
Interesting. So how much does one maple tree actually yield of water?
So we like to say 1 gallon per tap per tree per day of the maple season.
Wow.
So some of them have, some trees have more taps. If they're larger, older trees, they could have 2 or 3 taps. A lot of them have 1 tap, but there are a lot of trees to collect that much amount of maple water.
So you mentioned this earlier, I guess kind of the entry perception of maple water is that it might taste exactly like maple syrup. And that was honestly my first thought when I actually bought the first bottle I ever did was this might be clear maple syrup. I don't really know. So how do you actually approach that education piece from a marketing standpoint to communicate that, hey, this is not just clear maple syrup, even though that would probably taste really good?
Yeah, it's tough. That's one of our challenges is that education. And when we first started, we realized we just needed to get this in the hands of people and have them try the product. So we started doing and sampling at running races and triathlons and different type of festivals. And we would sample at Whole Foods and stores and really getting people to understand what it is. A lot of times people wouldn't believe us. We have a brand video on our website, and I was at a distributor show last week, and people just didn't really believe it. And I was showing them the video of the water coming through the tree, and that really helps people understand as well. Because once they try it and it's subtle and they realize, we like to share the stat that it takes 40 gallons of maple water to boil down to make 1 gallon of maple syrup. And once they wrap their head around that, that's almost like a mind-blown moment, and that, known all this time what maple syrup is, but didn't really understand how it was created. So from a marketing standpoint, we're very scrappy. We do a lot of grassroots stuff. We haven't done any big advertising campaigns, which would help in that education. But you need to have the distribution and the funding, obviously, to be able to do some sort of big market advertising campaign. So really, it's been all that scrappy grassroots, get people to try it and get them hooked on it.
Have demos and sampling and actually showing up at events where people need these types of healthy beverages been your turning point in educating consumers then?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's made a huge difference. I think if we didn't do that, if we didn't have the opportunity to be at these type things and really target consumer and the early adopters and the influencers at these type of events, I think we definitely wouldn't be where we are today. People become loyalists and evangelists and want to share with their friends. So the word of mouth has been really, really helpful, but we've found those evangelists really where we can interact with them at those events or at stores.
So one of the things with demos is that they're extremely effective. It's just one of those things that's kind of difficult to scale and actually, I guess, communicate the same message in the same way that you would if you're not the person there. So I guess, how have you guys approached it, and what have you found to be successful in the way of doing demos like that?
Yeah, I think that when we first started is you're so used to doing those demos. My first demo person was my mother. So even if she didn't know the answer, she had this proud mom I don't know, it's my daughter's company type thing. And we've been able to have good people. We've got a team of brand ambassadors that will sample. We just did a video, which was really helpful to be able to show. We had a consumer-facing video, but then we had, with our brand ambassador team, we did a video so they could really understand the brand more, because there was a point where I knew everyone, and I just don't know everyone now, and making sure that passion gets translated is really important to us, and making sure that they can properly answer questions. I don't expect them to know everything, but it's good for people to really, with this product, it's a lot different than demoing popcorn. They might want to know why the popcorn is different, but people have a lot of questions about our brand and our product and how it's made. So it's really important that people that are demoing understand that.
So I noticed you guys have a lot of great mentions in big publications like Wall Street Journal, NPR, like Refinery 29. And is that a concentrated PR effort, or is it more getting lucky because you have an interesting product?
We have someone on our team that does PR. She does marketing as well. She was focused on PR and then started to work for us full time. So she's now wears a lot of different hats. We all in the we're still a tiny team, so we're all doing a lot of different things. So I wouldn't say that we have a concentrated PR effort right now, even though her background is very strong in PR. But I think, we have done some outreach, so it's not just, when I started this company, I thought that people got press because of, they had a good company or product, and you do need to reach out. You do need to sell the company and share with what's interesting and things like that. So we do some of that PR. I wouldn't say we put a ton behind it. I think that what has gotten us successful with the PR is that it is so unique and that it is new to a lot of people, so it's something to talk about. I don't know if we would have gotten a lot of the same traction that we've been able to get with a lot of these big publications if we were a Me Too product. I think that having that unique nature has made this press easier to get, so to speak.
Yeah, I think the story kind of writes itself when you're creating your own category, which it comes with pros and cons of people asking, not understanding what the product is, but then also having that first mover's advantage.
Exactly.
Have you gotten that vibe at all of having that first mover's advantage on a product like this?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because you're building this awareness and building a category, which is extremely challenging. I don't really wish it on anyone. But I think, Jeff and I always say that I don't think we would be here if we weren't in the position of creating something unique. So to be successful, especially in beverage, to be successful, you need to have, great distribution. You need to have a great product, but you need to have connections, experience. You need to have a lot of capital, and there's so many good products out there, so many good beverages, so many good food products, but a lot of them just don't end up making it because of lacking one of those things. And I think that as two entrepreneurs that were really, really scrappy when we started, not having, experience, not having millions of dollars behind us when we started, what made us successful was that, hard work, passion, but then also that we had a unique product. So the whole maple water in general, people were picking up on it. We got an article in the Boston Globe 3 years ago, and then the Today Show was calling, and USA Today and ABC News, because it was so new. And I think if we were doing another coconut water, none of that would have happened, and it would have been harder to really move forward. So having that first mover advantage really has, it's brought those challenges, but it also has really enabled us to be where we are today.
Was the fact that with the knowledge that there wasn't anything like it on the market, did that scare you at all when you first were exploring the idea of starting the company?
So there were 3 Canadian companies. They weren't in the U.S., so there was nothing in the U.S. And then we were cold calling people, and we're cold calling maple farmers and bottlers and people to make our product. And then we came across another competitor that was planning on launching in the spring. They had been at it for years and had a lot more money than us. There was a lot of money behind it. And so we were really, really, really nervous. And then after that, 3 months later, another American company announced with this big PR push that they were launching. So here we are with no experience, no money. We're making, they're talking about how many bottles we're making. We were making as many bottles as was the minimum of our bottler and could afford. So it was still a good amount because of the type of processing. It was a lot of bottles that we made, and it was a lot of money, but it was nothing in comparison to what these other companies were doing. And long story short is that the other two, those companies have since folded and have gone out of business. The supply chain and the quality of the product, it wasn't handled properly and had some quality control issues. So that, I think, having these two, at the time, giants, I had the book David and Goliath on my desk, and I would look at it every day knowing it was like, we are going to win this. I know we're going to win. So that was really a lot more scary than if we were all alone in the category.
Now, kind of going back to those early days to where you are now, with you and your business partner starting out with a scrappy marketing budget and looking to get distribution in different retail partners, what did that look like as far as the first store to take you guys on to the second and then the growth from there?
So we joke about this now. So we just walk into stores. We didn't even have a product. We had a sample of what it tasted like. We had this sell sheet and a binder with this article that was written about maple water, but it was, I don't even remember where it was written. It was some website blog of someone writing about a maple water in Canada. So we printed out all the stuff and we would walk in and sell it. And we've got some independents when we started. There's maybe about 10. I think even that's a little bit generous. And then we walked into Whole Foods and, just asked to talk to the buyer. And it was kind of crazy. We just didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't know that there were brokers. We didn't really know that there was a proper way of category reviews and a proper way to do it. And you could get away a little bit more in the independents because they can just say yes on the spot. And so we would have them say yes on the spot, and then we would drive in our cars and deliver the cases and print out an invoice, and that was it. So there was no distribution. We self-distributed everything. And the biggest is when Whole Foods, finally brought us on. It was probably like 2 months later, so it just felt like a lifetime at the time. Whole Foods finally brought us on in their local program in North Atlantic, so we got into about 5 of the local stores. And then over the next 7 months, we were able to expand the region and get into all of them. And, now we have a much more sophisticated infrastructure with brokers and a sales team, and we go to category reviews and things like that. But I think just having the skill set of walking into the store, not knowing anything, and learning through self-distribution has really been helpful as we grow and as we're getting into additional stores and chains.
And that is a pretty hilarious story. So did you walk in and just ask the person working the checkout aisle at Whole Foods, or what was your pitch when you walked into Whole Foods? Yeah,
so there's the customer service desk when you walk in.
Uh-huh.
But not the cashiers, but the customer service. So we would just walk in and say, is there someone here that's responsible for buying your beverages? And they're like, the grocery buyer? I said, yeah, sure, the grocery buyer. So then they call the grocery buyer up, and we would introduce ourselves and break out the sample and open up our binder and show them.
That is scrappy, but really a cool story.
Yeah. And my business partner found the binder the other day. It was probably about a month ago, and he called me and said, I found that binder. Do you remember that thing? And I was like, just bright red with embarrassment. Just like, I cannot believe we did that. I mean, it was just insane. It was like they must have thought, what are you people thinking?
Just look how far we've come now.
Exactly.
That is hilarious. But hey, it worked and got you guys going in the right direction at least, and you learned the ways of doing it the right way. Yes.
And then, it is those stories. It's being scrappy. It's being bold. It's being not afraid to talk to people, because really that's what's going to get you far. You need to be really passionate and really dedicated to making sure that your product gets on the shelf.
And so when it comes to the category reviews now, can you walk us through the process of how you guys approach that and make sure that you guys are doing the best that you can to set yourself up for success?
Sure. So category reviews it depends. Not every store has them. Some stores have them once a year. Some stores have them twice a year. Usually it's for certain, just like categories, so they're not reviewing every single category at the same time. So they're typically, you can find, from a timing perspective, the brokers know the category reviews. So if you don't have a broker, then you could find out just word of mouth or asking, another company that's maybe in your same category when it would be. When we were doing category reviews for Whole Foods, when we didn't have representation in those areas, we would just lob in, the one-sheet presentations and cross our fingers. And we knew that it wasn't really an effective way to do it, but we did it. And we ended up actually getting into one region that way, miraculously. I don't really know how. But so now sometimes it's in-person reviews where you go and you present, and you might have 15 minutes, you might have 30, you might have an hour, but having a pretty succinct deck of who you are, where you come from, having samples for them to try, and then talk about why you're going to do well on the shelf. So we work a lot with people that are very familiar with the buyers, what they want to see, how long, what do they want to spend their most time on, so that we can walk in prepared rather than just winging it like we used to. Though we don't really have a problem winging it if we need to as well.
And so you guys started off just true grit and passion fueling you guys going into these different stores, and grew up to where you guys are at now, where it's 12,000 stores, which is really impressive. And now that you're in and have a more stable distribution, how are you going about making sure that your products are actually turning on the shelves and you're keeping your retail partners happy?
Yeah, so it's always a challenge, right? It's when you're in few stores that are in your area where your family and friends are, that are always shopping in those stores. You have eyes and ears. So if you're out of stock, you can go and call or stop in and figure it out. When you start to grow and you don't have people in all these places, it's really challenging. So we do have some teams of merchandisers that will go in and make sure that we're on the shelf and getting reorders and figuring out, because the reality is you can sell through what's on the shelf and then it will never get reordered again. And you're not getting those movement velocities that you need to see to show the buyer that you're moving. So you can be out of stock in a store and your velocities are going to be very low because you haven't been on the shelf. There's always a challenge of, okay, if you're put on the shelf and you're not moving, that's probably a worse problem to have. But really when we launch in these stores, our biggest challenge and opportunity is to make sure that the product is in the store, it is moving, it's not out of stock for days at a time, weeks at a time, months at a time, that it is getting refilled, and being able to have teams and making sure that the brokers and merchandising teams in areas where you're doing high velocities are in place. I think that it's, with a distribution network that's not DSDs, they're not having that always hands-on touch, can be challenging. But as we grow the brand and really able to gain more shelf space and gain more presence, that's what our goal is to be able to get that and to be able to continue to grow and make sure that we're getting that attention from a consumer who might be walking by.
So of the stores that you are currently in, about what percentage is grocery versus convenience?
We have very low convenience right now. I would say convenience is probably less than 0.05%. It's very low. So we're really focused on grocery and the natural channel, Whole Foods and Kroger, H-E-B, Wegmans, those type of stores. That's where you really... once you get to convenience, I think it's a great channel. I think you just need to be prepared to, really support convenience, and the brand needs to be known. We do have a lot of success in drug, so we are in drug, and, our goal is to be accessible and to have, this healthful hydration everywhere. So our goal is to be in convenience and to be very, very accessible no matter where anyone goes. But it's just making sure that the timing is right and the progression is right from that natural channel to conventional grocery to drug and to convenience.
And so I guess at what level does it make sense for a brand like DrinkMaple to actually start making the leap into convenience? I think it depends on the brand. For us, we are shelf stable, so we have a little bit of that flexibility where it's not like we have to move in a week because of that shelf stable nature. So there are some products that have 60-day shelf life and inconvenience. If it's not turning the way it needs to be turning, that can be challenging because of spoiling issues. So having a shelf stable product is
advantageous for us. I think that it depends on the brand. It depends on how well funded you are. I think that, making sure that you've got the strong distribution network that's going to fit your brand. Convenience is primarily through a DSD distribution network, so you need to be ready to be able to support. DSDs are amazing hands-on distributors, but you need to be able to provide the team and the people to support. That takes capital. You need to be able to really make sure that your product is moving off the shelf in those channels. So I think there are a lot of brands that have experience in convenience channel, whether they're former entrepreneurs that have success or can jump right in. But for us, we know that we're going to be there. It's just right now doing a full-blown convenience strategy is not in the cards in 2017.
That makes sense. And so if a customer newly discovers you guys online via either social media or one of the many publications that you guys are in, is your goal to drive them in stores to benefit that relationship with the retail partners, or is it capturing the transaction on the website for a higher profit margin? I guess, how do you value those two different transactions?
Yeah, I think really our goal, I like to see people buy it in the store. I think it's great if people buy it online. I would never discourage anyone from buying it online. Our Amazon business has really been growing. Our drinkmaple.com own store business has been growing. I think when someone buys it on our personal website, we can have a continuous interaction, like we're able to throw in a T-shirt or something like that for the person to really show our appreciation for them being a supporter and a fan. But for us, our online business is such a small percentage of our business that making sure that we're showing support in the stores and that it's moving is really important for us. So we're not going to close down our drinkmaple.com store if the product's not moving, but if no one's going to your local Kroger and it's not moving, then we've got problems.
And when it comes to digital marketing, I'm not sure if you guys are actually doing targeted or organic posts to drive people in stores. Can you speak to that at all?
We do. I mean, we don't have a full-blown, digital marketing campaign. People will always reach out about digital marketing campaigns. The most that we've done at this point is really targeted Facebook, where, we're doing geo-targeting if we launch a new store, like with Sprouts, to make sure that people in the area or people that like Sprouts or like the certain store realize that we're there. For us, that's way more in our budget by doing those Facebook geo-targeted or interest-targeted type posts rather than doing a full-blown digital marketing campaign. I think that there's definitely a point that we're going to do that, but at this point in the game, just making sure we're using our capital and funds to be scrappy and know that what we're doing is really driving people to the stores rather than just spending a lot of money and hoping for the best.
Counter to that, you mentioned Amazon is a growing piece of the business, and on your website, I noticed that you guys have the Amazon Dash button.
We do, yeah.
What's that like getting that set up, and how has that influenced the sales?
So the Dash button, we did it pretty early. We didn't know, is this really going to drive a lot? We have a pantry type product where people will buy cases and fill their refrigerator or pantry and always have it on stock. So that's why we decided to go with it. I think the setup for Dash was fairly easy. It wasn't too intensive at all. It didn't take a lot of our time. I think if it were really complicated or difficult, we wouldn't have moved forward with it. But I think it's not, from a sales perspective, it's not knocking our socks off by any means, but it's not like, whoa, this transformed our Amazon business. But it has led to that steady growth of really continuing to grow. I mean, we had our biggest month on Amazon last month than we've ever had. So we do, every month we continue to see that grow without really having a full-on online sales strategy behind it.
Interesting. Part of that, I'm sure, is building that brand awareness, and then people just having that existing trust in Amazon. But when it comes to building that brand awareness, I noticed that you guys have an athlete ambassador program. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of, or a huge part of our culture and what we're passionate about was triathlon and running and riding bikes and swimming. And so we got cycling kits that a lot of our friends, we have a large group of training partners and friends that we train with, and people that work for the company as well. So we ended up getting cycling kits, and a good amount of us, we sold them on our website, and a good amount of us bought them. And so and these are all people I know. They're just my friends. So we post pictures and we post on our social media, and then we kept on getting inquiries saying, how can I join the team? And we're like, we don't really have a team. This is just, these are like my friends that just wear the kids. So we it continued on. We get emails all the time or Instagram posts. And so it wasn't until we added Allison on my team, who I was mentioning before, and when she started full-time, she had the PR background. I was like, all right, you're in charge of the Athlete Ambassador program. Let's figure this out, because people just keep asking. So we took applications in the fall and really wanted people passionate. I mean, we have some very fast elite athletes. We have some people that aren't very fast. It's not like we, made them submit their mile time or anything like that, but we wanted to make sure they were passionate and very involved in the community. We wanted to make sure that people were out there and they were, involved in that whatever athletic pursuit they were doing, and not just a weekend warrior, casual type person. But it didn't mean that they needed to be running, some sub-3 marathons by any stretch of the imagination. So we took applications, and then we have different levels of ambassadorship based on just their involvement and what they're doing. So we don't pay anybody. I mean, like I said, we're very scrappy with our funds. We don't have budget to be paying athletes. We don't have any professional sponsored athletes like a NFL or NBA or anything like that. So the perks are really through product, supporting through events they're doing, providing discounts on product, providing some swag, some discounts on swag, and really making sure that, we're supporting them, but also that we're not, cutting a check for thousands of dollars, because the budget's just not there for that.
And how time-consuming is it to manage the ambassadors, or is it kind of a self-managed program once you are an ambassador?
Allison on my team, she spends time. She definitely spends a lot of time. We have a lot of it's and it's all good. I think that is, people are really passionate and want to be involved. So they're asking questions, and we've done ambassador parties and get-togethers, and we're making sure that people are being supported if they're going to a race. And we have like people that go and hand out product at events that we sponsor, but if we're not sponsoring the event, a lot of the ambassadors will want to hand it out on their own and just do kind of like a pop-up, whether it's out of their car or whatnot, or get a table and hand it out and just do a really scrappy like hydration station. So we have about 120 ambassadors, so it's a lot to manage. People are really involved, so I think I would rather have it be that way than the opposite side of things.
And obviously the overarching goal is brand awareness with this ambassador program. Are there any specific metrics that you're looking for in regard to this program that you would qualify as a success or as a lot of time spent on something? From
the ambassador program, we don't necessarily have metrics or goals that we set in place. We really just did it in the sense of people kept on asking, so why don't we roll it out? At this point, we're going to continue to do it just because the engagement, I think that, our metric is probably more by engagement of social media.
Yeah, it's tough because that's such so many brands have been built on great ambassador programs, but it is such a difficult thing to quantify the actual return in just a really black and white case. But it's clearly working for you guys.
It is. It's very difficult. And even, as you mentioned too, because, we can see we have codes for online sales, and you can't determine it even by that because, as we were talking about before, the goal is really to driving people to the stores to buy it.
So what's next on the horizon for DrinkMaple?
So we've got some exciting things coming out that we will be announcing at the Fancy Food Show in about a week and a half. So some extensions there. So I'm really excited about that. I think we were a little bit slow to introduce extensions, but just because we really want to make sure it felt right for the brand. But that's all happening very soon. So really we realized that being able to gain that shelf space and that presence, and when you walk in and you see all of those products, if you don't have that billboard and space, it can be really detrimental to getting the brand and getting lost in the mix. And then we've got a lot more. We're expanding heavily through CVS starting in July. We're expanding some of our Whole Foods presence. We're definitely adding a lot more retailers. We're adding Shaw's, which is a big one in this region, which we're excited about. We just launched a Market Basket in this region, which we're excited about. And then Sprouts was a couple months ago, which really got us a lot of presence on the West Coast, which was great. So just continuing to add that distribution, continuing to add innovation, and then dreaming up what's the next thing.
We've got 3 questions that we ask each of our guests. Is there anything that you've learned over the course of your current role? Actually, I'm sure there's plenty, but is there anything that you can think of that you wish you could have gone back and told yourself right when you were starting the company?
Oh.
I guess what would be most valuable?
Yeah, most valuable. I think that this is a marathon and not a sprint. I think we have run ourselves into the ground a lot. We work there's a fine line, right? I mean, for me, it was that this is a marathon more than a sprint. I think if somebody is a little bit less motivated or less of a self-starter, then I would give the opposite, being like, you need to make sure that when you start, like, you go full on so that you can, move and have a successful product. Like, you're in or you're out. Don't wait around. But when we got into this, it was like, oh, we are fully in. So we had the challenge of, and we still do. I mean, just that we work a ton. There's little sleep at the beginning, and I think the first year I look back and there was a lot of things that I just wasn't taking care of myself in the way that was mentally stable for me. I wasn't running anymore. I was just working and not sleeping and just needing to take care of myself. I realized, like, even carving out, if it's 30 minutes a day to do my workouts or to take a quiet moment was really, really important. And I continue to tell myself that now.
It's like the very activity that I started this company to supplement, this company is preventing me from doing. So what's going on here?
Exactly.
So is there a piece of advice that you could think of that you've been given that you draw strength from when times get tough?
I think that it's just, there are going to be ups and downs, and, nothing ever is going to go always smoothly. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and just making sure, you're going to come out of the other, when you're going through hell, keep going, because it's going to work out if you can, continue to go. My dad sent me a Teddy Roosevelt quote a couple of weeks ago, and he's had it on his desk for 30 years, and it's one of those things too that I had never even seen it, and things were just, I was exhausted. We were in a bit of a hell of a week, and he knew that, and he sent it to me.
Is that the man in the arena quote?
Yeah, you got it.
That's got to be one of my favorite quotes of all time. Teddy Roosevelt's got a ton of good ones.
Mm-hmm.
But, so,
it was like perfect. I knew the quote, but I think he texted it to me, and it was just perfect timing because I was on the brink of tears, and it was just a really, really challenging week. And he was like this, and he didn't even know that. I mean, I was in another city, had no idea. I hadn't communicated any of that, and it came up on my phone. It was just like, I was thinking of you, and this has been on my desk for 30 years. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fitting right now.
It really is. And everyone can relate to that. You read that and you're like, yeah, I'm the man in the arena. That's me.
Yeah.
But it is such a good quote. But is there a book that you like to recommend to people or that's helped you in your career as an entrepreneur?
One of my favorites is Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk. I think it's a little, I don't want to say it's outdated now, but I read it so long ago now. His books are great. And I read that right when we first started. I wasn't even, in the really full-blown into the business at that point. Good to Great's always a good one as well, but I think the one that really I look back on is Crush It.
Yeah, Gary Vee's got some good books. He's a motivational, smart dude. He definitely knows his marketing. So,
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much, Kate, for coming on the show, and it was really interesting getting to hear your perspective and hear the stories of how you guys are grinding it out and really building the company to where it is today. So, appreciate it again.
Thank you. This has been so fun.
And where's a good place for people to find out about DrinkMaple?
DrinkMaple.com, our website. And then we're also Instagram, Facebook, and all those good things. But we have our video and all of our social links right on the website.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, Kate.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Food Marketing Nerds Podcast. For interview transcripts or to download your free social media ebook, check out foodmarketingnerds.com.